Hello and welcome to Maritimes Watch, the Maritimes' only dedicated program looking at corruption and the misuse of public resources. Today we have episode 4, the Ode to Joy, and it's going to be looking at what's going on in the latest shenanigans with New Brunswick Power. In November 2016, New Brunswick Power signed an agreement with Joi Scientific, a Florida-based company that claimed that they would be able to develop power plants that would use hydrogen extracted from seawater. Surely that's a fantastic idea, right? Seawater is something that the Maritimes has aplenty, and it wouldn't allow us to pollute our environment or to be dependent on some terrible, evil foreign country. Be something homegrown, would be able to use power generated from a resource which we have plenty. This scientific technology is based on the idea that they would be able to create, using 1 watt of energy, they would be able to create 2 watts of energy by creating hydrogen gas from the seawater. Sounds fantastic, right? Well, unfortunately, it ignores some basic laws of thermodynamics, which says that you are not able to get more energy than you put in, unless you have some sort of combustive material. So we have an unproven technology, we have something that flies in the face of physics, but does that deter New Brunswick Power? Of course not. So they plow ahead and they make an agreement with Joi Scientific to continue their research, and eventually, of course, in some magical future, we'll be able to have a cheap and renewable source of power for New Brunswick and dig them out of all that debt that they've acquired over the years. And you would think that with this fantastic process that Joi Scientific has come up with, that other investors would be beating their way to the door, right? But that's not what has happened. And in fact, recently, 2 Japanese investors have decided that, of course, the process won't work, so they're not going to put any more money into this. To date, New Brunswick Power has put in almost 20 million of New Brunswick's ratepayers' money into this process, hoping that at some point, somehow, magically, it will all come together and work. In fact, recently, the CEO of New Brunswick Power, Gaetan Thomas, went before the Crown Corporations Committee of the legislature and declared that, well, if they only had a little bit more time, surely things would turn out the way that they expected, and this magical process would work and everything would be just fine and dandy here in New Brunswick. However, nothing seems to be able to deter New Brunswick Power from this process. The government has expressed their concerns, but Thomas has insisted that they continue and just give it a bit more time, and currently New Brunswick Power is still pumping $20,000 a month into Joi Scientific and specifically towards their labs. So nothing seems to be able to deter the belief in New Brunswick Power to be able to get this magical process going. Now, you would think that a first-year physics student would be able to understand that you're not going to be able to get more energy out of it, and surely if seawater was a viable energy source, every major company in the world would be beating their door to Joi Scientific. But that's not what has happened. Now, is this the first time a fantastical idea has taken off in the Maritimes and taxpayers' money has been put into such things? No, of course not. This is the long history of failures and fiascos and constant schemes to develop these, what I like to call scratchy type or magic bean type approaches to economic development, right? As long as we get that lotto ticket that somehow we're going to win and everything's going to just turn out fantastic one day soon. But we know that this just isn't the case. So, where are we now? Well, the government of New Brunswick has expressed some serious concerns and basically has said if you can't prove that the technology works, then you're going to have to stop it. Kudos to them, and we hope that this is actually pushed through. But what about the 20 million that has already been spent? Is this going to come out of Gaetan Thomas's large salary? He's the highest paid official in New Brunswick. Is it going to be recovered at some point through a fraud case with Joi Scientific to prove that they knew at the same time that they were telling us these tales that it wouldn't work? There seems to be ample evidence to show that this was a straight out fraud. Why was no due diligence done? Once again, we see taxpayers' money has been wasted on fantastic projects that aren't going anywhere. We've covered this in a couple of other episodes, and it's about time that people are actually held account for that. Do what the cup says, and watch out for episode 5 coming very soon. Thanks.